Welcome back to the 7th grade mustache. Today we'll be discussing the agent provocateurs, agents of chaos. It's an old military tool and tactic used to collapse oppositional movements from within. And we've seen that recently in recent days in the protests all over America for George Floyd. So I want to read a quote, poignant because it's from a Nazi, Joseph Goebbels. In 1934, he said, "Whoever can dominate the street will one day conquer the state. For every form of power politics or any dictatorship run state has its roots in the street." Now, contrast that with June 1st of this year, 2020. President Trump said the goal is to dominate the street. Well, how about them apples?
I think one of the biggest things when you talk about agent provocateurs, you think their spies just sent there to stop a movement, but sometimes it's also there to manipulate a movement, whether to create their own need. Right now, you hear about cops who are part of the looters doing things, or you hear about white supremacists who are part of the looters, or the rioters, or the protesters sent there to start shit. That's been going on for years. You think that when you talk about agent provocateur, you think about somebody who is going to undermine the protest. Nah, some people are there to set the shit off. Some people want chaos. Some people want a race riot. The idea that black people aren't ready for a race riot. So you have these people these paramilitary groups, going back to the 60s, King Alfred plan and Rex 33, whatever it is. You have small groups that were put together, designed to keep black folks in line and things like that. You had a lot of police forces that were infiltrated by the Klan they had these small groups that were designed to keep people in line. If the shit hit the fan, if there was a race riot, if there was a large racial movement, they would have been there to mix it. So you have people who are infiltrating the movement to actually make it worse, not to topple the movement, but to progress it in a negative direction.
So in Oregon recently, about 2-3 days ago, there was a cop that was caught on camera, and he was approaching a group of white Proud Boys who had their rifles exposed in an open carry situation, and he said to them in confidence,
tone it down.
Even though he was on camera, he said, "I've been told by my superior officer to let you know and to ask you to please go inside or get in your car because we're going to clamp down hard tonight." Okay, here's the thing. You just spoke about how white nationalists are like invading or like intercepting, getting inside of police and authorities. That is right there an example of someone who may or may not be a white nationalist, but is favorable to whites with guns when they know that a peaceful protest is coming. So either he is, or the person that he reports to is sympathetic to white nationalists.
Well, hold on. When we say white nationalists, okay, you have white supremacists. You have people who want to keep the society the way it is, where whites are dominant. Then you have white nationalists. If they're just proud of being white, I ain't got no problem with it because I'm a black nationalist. I'm proud of being black.
No. You're doing something. You're doing something really unnecessary right there. Here's the thing, man. Like, no. Let me finish my thought. Here's the thing, dude. Is like, I don't give a shit about the difference between the two, because what they are people that want white people to be on top and stay on top. That is what a white nationalist is. Let's not parse hairs unnecessarily here.
Okay. Let me explain something to you. So if you're proud of being white and you like your white country, so you think that's a bad thing, right?
No. That's no. A white nationalist is a person that acts on it and believes that whites should stay on top. That's what a white nationalist is.
So I'm a black nationalist. I believe black folks should be on top. I believe that we should do everything we can to be successful, be on top. But see, I'm not going to impede anybody else's success. I'm trying to encourage my own
But a white
success.
nationalist
So
wants to do that. So I mean, dude, we're getting sidetracked like unnecessarily here.
no, no, hold it. The point being is, if what you're saying is that this cop, is he appealing to them because they're gun guys or because they're white guys? Is he does he not want to arrest his own people? That's the problem with
That's
the police.
what
That's
it
what makes it
is.
crazy.
He does not.
Yeah.
Yeah. Watch your distance, man.
Okay. He does not want to arrest his own people. And so he tells these guys to back the fuck down. But the fact of the matter is that if it was on the other side, that's how we got here in the first place. That's why these protests are happening right now. One of our favorite ones, me and you spoke about this, where the guy had the gas mask on and his ex-wife busted his ass out. I thought that was Minnesota too, but I don't want to give the wrong location. You had a cop wearing a pink gas mask who was breaking the windows at a Target. He is creating a need. He is creating a situation.
Back off from the microphone.
He's created a situation where cops need to be called, but he's a cop doing it. So who's going to be the one going to jail? Who's going to be the one getting shot with rubber bullets or pepper balls and all this? It's going to be us. It's going to be our people. So this agent provocateur thing is nothing new. Now, also, we had the same situation going back to World War II, whether we're talking about funny, the first thing you mentioned was the streets. There was a movement, I don't want to get it wrong, but there was a movement on the streets where the guys were called werewolves. And they were basically agents of like the Nazis, but they were like in like Palestine and someplace like that, or Iran or something. They literally had funding from the Nazis that years ago, and the guys on the streets, the young Turks, were called werewolves, and they were tearing shit up, causing this kind of thing. So yeah, that street movement, that grassroots movement, that's some real shit. That's how things start. That's what the most important thing to nix that in the bud is. And that's what the president's saying. Let's take back the streets. Let's beat the shit out of people is what he's saying. Unless what did he say to the governors? That you need to control your rioters or dominate your rioters. That's what he said.
Okay, let's be clear on the definition here. So the agent provocateur is a French word meaning a person who commits or acts to entice another person to commit an illegal act, to falsely implicate them in partaking in an illegal act, to ruin a reputation. Now, this has been around for centuries, thousands of years, going all the way back to Sun Tzu in China. But it really scaled up in the 19th century when a Frenchman named Eugene Francois Vidocq used unlawful acts and tactics against his opponents to further the interests of the French government. So it existed for a very long time. But see, speaking of Sun Tzu spoke of 5 different types of agents, and these are spies. He spoke about a local spy, an inside spy, a reverse spy, a dead spy, and a living spy. The one that we're most concerned with here in this instance is an inside spy, and that's someone who may be untrustworthy or conniving. They could be really overly ambitious or easily bribed, and they're greedy. And the things that can turn these people in other ways, they could be compromised for personal gain because they're disgruntled or overlooked for promotion. And when you talk about, you brought up this cop in Minneapolis, and the cop in Minneapolis, when I see that situation, he was a divorcee, right? He got divorced, and so he was exposed by his ex-wife. So this guy may be bitter for some circumstance or whatever. Maybe he's not getting enough money. His wife left him. Maybe his wife left him for a black dude. Whatever. But the thing is this. He has been turned by someone, by a group of handlers, by an organization. He has been compromised. And so therefore, he's willing to go out on behalf of this shadow group and commit these acts of anarchy, to throw gasoline on a fire. So he's an example of what we're talking about here. Someone who has been corrupted. He probably has been bribed. Of course, he was probably paid to do that because, some cop isn't just going to just do that for no reason without any motivation. But if he's a dirty cop, hold on. But if this cop was a dirty cop, which is what he clearly was. Money may have motivated him further. Now, he might have just been some just cracker that was just easily like, swayed to do this. But
That's where I was going with it.
okay,
That's where I was going with
but
it.
the thing is, but the thing is that this guy was put on blast and exposed by his wife on social media because she identified his photograph, and then she went further to say that he was wearing her ventilator gas mask. That
Yes, her pink gas mask.
it was a pink gas mask, right? This macho ass dude is wearing a pink gas mask. That's his wife's gas mask. He stole it from her. So she put him on blast. Now, what I find really interesting and encouraging about this entire scenario is that more and more of these agent provocateurs have been exposed. There was this guy, I don't know what
Yes.
city it was. It was an older dude. He had a full head of gray hair, and a bunch of teenagers saw him about to like ignite like some type of mortar. They bum rushed his ass, stomped him, grabbed him, and threw him to the police. Did you see that one?
No, I didn't see that one.
Oh man, it was wonderful. I laughed so hard when I saw that shit. But there's more of this going on. There's more and more of this going on. Then there was another video. I think this was May 31st. I seen this, and this white dude looked like a straight up anarchist. Is like he's standing around on the street and he just like giving like all these commands to like these young black kids. I'm like, why are y'all listening to this motherfucker? Why?
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. You unwrapped a lot of things. So now let me dial it down to the two groups that we are as one. Black Lives Matter is a hashtag. I'm a black man, period. So the Black Lives Matter doesn't mean anything to me. What it means is that you infringed on my neighborhood. You have two groups. You have the white supremacists, which we talked about first, and then you have Antifa, which is the anti-fascism movement, which I have a problem with that, but we'll discuss that in a second. I sent you a text message the other day. As soon as I saw it, I live in Omaha, Nebraska. There was a ad on Craigslist advertising from Antifa for rioters in Lincoln, Nebraska, and rioters in Omaha, Nebraska. And like I said, my homie Lincoln sent it to me. And when you read it, it says we're advertising for $25 an hour for rioters in downtown Omaha and in Lincoln, Nebraska, and we will pay your legal fees. And they said we are Antifa, we're well funded. $25 an hour. You got people out of work, and you're gonna pay me to break shit? Of course, they are hijacking our movement. They are hijacking it, and just to further their idea. And the thing is, this gets so crazy. So you have people being paid just to tear shit up, act a fool, but it's a black man here in Omaha got killed because of it. He was part of the rioters, and
21-year-old kid.
That situation is. Yep, Skurlock. Complicated conversation. Based on the video you see, it might be justified, but they're looking for 3 witnesses right now that said there was more to it. This guy himself that did the shooting may have incited this. So that's a complicated conversation. I'm not discussing that part, but I'm discussing the fact that you got white supremacists. Now, going back to our discussion in the beginning, what was a white nationalist, what's a white supremacist? That cop is a white supremacist because he is trying to make the machine go into effect to kill or hurt black people. That's a white supremacist. He feels that these people are whatever, whether they're devalued, whether he's tired of the rioters, or whether he just wanted something to do because he's been locked up because of COVID and they had shit to do. Busting the nigga in the head ain't a thing to him. But busting out those windows, doing a felony to cause my downfall, that's the agent provocateur. These Antifa people who are riling up shit, same thing. They are piggybacking our movement.
They are anarchists. All they want is chaos. Because here's the thing. But hold on. Here's the thing. With the anarchists, they're only interested in chaos. They want to just watch everything burn. Now, they don't offer a solution to anything.
No, thank you. See, what's even deeper about that? They're anti-fascists, but they're fascists. When you tell somebody how to think,
You're a fascist.
Yes, me and you had just had a disagreement in the beginning. But I never told you, hey, Roscoe, you're fucking wrong. Stop doing that. No, I'm like, hey, bro, I don't agree. You don't agree. But we continue. Fascists, no, they want you to agree with them, and they don't care whose head they got to bust. And these are all little pussy-ass dudes. Now, back to our situation right here. There was a rally at the Malcolm X Foundation, and I think, man, real talk, I think about 200-300 people showed up. And this is all about the Black Lives Matter. This is all about the local guys, Kid Skurlock, and George Floyd up in Minnesota. All this stuff is going on. And there were a lot of people there, a lot of black people, a lot of white people. There was a lot of white folks I had never seen before. And I saw these guys in fatigues that were bringing water. And on their shoulder, they had a sickle and a hammer and a sickle. And I'm like, that's some communism shit. Okay,
what?
Socialism shit. Yes, I ain't got done yet. So before you get, and then they had a flag that was gold and red, but I couldn't make out the symbol. It was not the sickle; it was a different symbol put together. And I'm like, so what are you guys here for? And these people are from out of town. These people are not from local. That was not. I'm sorry. That was another thing. I spoke to one of my guys that trains with the SWAT team. He said, hey, duct tape, I'm going to tell you, he said 75% of the arrests are out-of-town people, and not close out of town, not like people from, Council Bluffs, not people from Sioux City, not people from Hastings, Nebraska. These are people from Illinois. These are people from Mississippi. These are people from Louisiana. These are people from all over the country coming here to cause damage and then leave. And one more point, my homegirl's mom works the police station. I think it was 45 to 80 people got arrested. They all made bail the same night. So when you read that article, you say that's not. See, when you saw the advertisement,
they have one benefactor. There's one group. There's one fund.
Yes.
Like got all those people out. But
yes.
Here's the thing, though. Did anybody at all in attendance question the appearance or the attendance of these people?
No. Okay. That's where I was going with. That's the next part. Nobody did, because we were all focusing on, like I said, the local kid getting killed and the bigger movement and things like that. I questioned it personally, but I didn't say anything to him. Now, there were some other white guys that, I didn't recognize.
Stop. Questions. All right. When you scan these guys, what was their physique like? Were they in shape? Were they buff? Were they clean shaven?
No. Hold on. One, they had beards. Two were in shape. The rest were kind of pot-bellied, and they had soft hands. You could tell they had soft hands. I wasn't afraid of those two. I was afraid of the bigger ones. Now, the other issue is there were some white. I'm sorry, what you said?
You said afraid?
No, not afraid. When I say afraid, I mean, were they going to do something? There were other white guys that did make me question, like, were they there to set off the other ones, the white supremacists?
Who invited them?
No, see, it was just a rally. Nobody invited anybody. It was a rally. It was all over the radio. It was all over Facebook. And everybody came to, like I said, for the whole Black Lives Matter movement. There was all these signs. And like I said, it started out slow, but when I say it picked up, it got packed. And I said 200-300 people. It was great. But I'm telling you, these people, Omaha is a small community. Nebraska is a small community, so you recognize faces, even if you don't know somebody. But I'm telling you, those people weren't from this area. And the other group of guys that I did recognize, that I did not recognize, maybe white supremacist cats were there to set something off. Now, there's a funny thing that happened at the Malcolm X Foundation. Do you know what that was, my brother? We were heavy. It was a lot of old OGs there. A lot of guys had guns. I saw a cat walking around with an AK pistol. I had my pistol. Yeah, I think that they might have came there with something in mind, but when they realized who they were dealing with, they weren't dealing with a bunch of liberal namby-pamby marching cats. They were dealing with people that really wanted to do something.
They saw some OGs packing the heat. They were like, "Oh,
yeah." It was much more spiritual than that. It was a much more spiritual situation.
Was it?
And
hold on. Sidebar. Go into that. I want to hear about this.
So the guy that runs it now, I think his name is, I don't want to give his name because I don't know him that well, but he took over from our homeboy, and he laid it down. He just said, "I don't care what denomination you are. I don't care what." And then he also spoke on Black matters in front of white people. Like, look, I'm glad y'all are here, but this ain't for y'all. This ain't y'all movement. Thank you for supporting us. Thank you for supporting us. But this is our situation. And then the older guy came and said, "Look, he said, one thing that's missing. We don't have enough older people on the streets communicating how to do it properly. There's ways of doing this." There's legal ways. There's ways of protesting. One of the things that I talked about was the guy that did the shooting, the local guy. Ain't no way he should get a liquor license. We should be at every time he goes to court. We should be there. We should be making him uncomfortable. And of course, they dropped the charges, and everybody's upset about that. But like I said, based on the video, Yeah, based on the video, ain't no real charges. But he should have at least got a gun charge. Then, like I said, now they're saying there's some witnesses coming forward saying that he was inciting some of the behavior. He was doing some stuff. So, like I said, we gotta wait and see. They had a lot of real solutions, a lot of real advice, a lot of real things. And so, like I told you, I don't know what they came for. But if they came to start a riot, or they thought that was the place to kill some black folks and cause a situation, no, there were too many guns in that crowd. There were too many people that had the time already and didn't care about going back. There were too many people in that crowd that genuinely wanted to fix the black situation. So yeah, this wasn't these protesters you see now, and even the night of rioting that happened the day before, where the guy got shot. I live in the downtown area, so I'm telling you what I witnessed. I was coming down the street, and it was in front of the courthouse, in front of the Woodman Tower. You'll love this. There was like 35 to maybe 45 sisters, nothing but black girls, no men, no, and they all had their fists up. They had their signs. They were protesting. I was like, man, that's the thing of beauty.
You should take a picture of that.
I hit the corner because, like I said, they were not in front of the courthouse. They were at Woodman. They were actually across the street. I hit the corner to go park my car. I see 4 or 5 white kids coming. A girl with purple hair, a white dude in a plaid shirt. That's when I started seeing bricks. That's when you started seeing the other factors coming in. That's when I moved on. I moved all my cars to the parking garage. You ain't messing up my car. And that's another thing that I witnessed. When you're talking this agent provocateur stuff, they destroyed the subway because I live in that building. They destroyed Wells Fargo. They never went in to steal any money. All they did was break windows. That's a different kind of movement. That's the hit and run. Second, many of these people are wearing masks and they're not wearing them because of COVID. That's the problem with that Antifa. These guys are not showing their faces. These are the same people. It's funny that these people who are Antifa, who are anti-fascists, are doing the same thing the Klan did, covering their faces, so they can go back to work the next day. Do you understand what made the Klan so effective? They infiltrated every part of a society.
Anonymous.
So you don't know. Yes, these guys, and what they're doing is they're doing these crimes. And like I said, my people are the ones shedding blood, getting hurt. Okay. But these guys get bailed out the next day.
Okay.
So
okay. So here's the thing. So the bricks in Hong Kong. The bricks were used to prevent cop cars from driving toward them or running anybody over on the streets. So what you do is you create this obstacle course, making it hard for vehicles to navigate or drive over to get to them. So there's that. Now, here's the second thing. There is plenty of footage that anybody listening to this podcast can go and look up online, or photographs online, of flatbed trucks and forklifts delivering pallets of bricks to the streets. Now,
who's doing that? Who's got that money?
Listen now, nobody in this Black Lives Matter movement is doing that. Okay, nobody's doing that. But here's the thing. George Soros is a big backer of Black Lives Matter. Of Black Lives Matter also. Now, several episodes ago, we spoke about a gentleman who at the same time, he funded the Nation of Islam, and he also funded the KKK, and he also funded the NAACP in the 20s and 30s. So this guy Soros is hedging his bets. He's giving money to Antifa, he's giving money to Black Lives Matter, and he's probably giving money to the Proud Boys. This guy is stirring the pot. Now you got to remember that he was a Nazi youth, and he has said many times in interviews that he wants to bring about the destruction of the United States. Now, he believes that he's above the law because he's a billionaire and he lives in Europe and nobody's going to come and body snatch his ass. But you got to... He's
the guy we call the quintesson. That's what we meant by quintesson.
Yes, great analogy. He's a fucking quintesson. Yeah. Hey, so here's the thing, though. So a lot of this stuff is going on because you have powerful, invisible groups. They're planning their agent provocateurs. They're planting the seeds of destruction. They're putting all the pieces on the table, and they just want people to play the game. So if the crazy part about it is nobody took the bait for the bricks. Nobody picked up any of the bricks and used them. So it's like, all the bricks they laid out, you could have built a damn house. Like, it was crazy. But
it's nuts.
Yeah, it was so many bricks in different cities, big cities, small cities, bricks. And then there's a guy, I believe it was in Massachusetts. He was on a rooftop pointing his camera down into an alley where there's cops taking bricks out of a pickup truck. Did you see that?
No, I didn't see. I didn't see that one.
Oh man. Yes. So there's all this questionable behavior that you're seeing, and most of it is being, done by agent provocateurs. So
That's the whole thing we were discussing when it came to the whole AutoZone situation. They were in another black neighborhood someplace, and remember the AutoZone caught on fire. And me and you had made the comment going back to Ferguson. So that was the exact thing they caught those cops doing in Ferguson, where they had the rioters over here, but then the AutoZone, which is like 7 blocks away, caught on fire, and they have footage of 5 or 6 of the SWAT team going into there, and then that's when the fire happened. What they're doing. See, the agent provocateur, he's not necessarily sabotaging the movement. He's ensuring that, okay, we have a right to be here. That's what these cops are doing.
He's an agent of chaos.
Yeah. He doesn't care about undermining the movement.
He wants to destroy the reputation of the movement.
Yes. By setting that fire, all of a sudden, these guys they're not just protesters. They're setting fires. They're vandals. We need to bring in the police. We need to bring in.
They're criminals.
Yes.
Now, so we got a couple different directions we can go in, but we're gonna go down this road real quick. So, days ago in D.C., there was a blackout, and Trump hid in his bunker. Now, on this day, when this happened, I think it was June the 2nd, there was a media blackout. There was an electronic blackout from 1 a.m. until 5 in the morning for 4 hours. Now, the protesters who were charging the gates of the White House heard this electronic popcorn sound. And then there was a boom, and their phones all turned into bricks. Nobody could make any phone calls. All electronics within like a quarter-mile area were off. Nothing worked. Now, at the same time, there was a lot of fake news bots putting up this information that, everybody has gone to sleep, and that's why there's no posts right now. Really? From everybody that's there, from journalists that work for news media outlets, from kids trying to contact their friends and their family, nobody? Everybody's went to sleep at the same time? What is this, the Dark City? Come on, man! Like, get the hell out of here! Like,
it was some kind of EMP weapon.
It was
Trust
an
me,
EMP weapon that wiped out all electronics, so nobody could do anything. And so it calls into question of like, all right, so what was really happening here? Was this part of a security system mechanism that's used to protect the White House? Probably. But at the same time, there was fake news being put out to protect the knowledge of this EMP weapon. So
the idea that our military, or the idea that our Secret Service, because don't forget, that was the Secret Service out there, the idea that they would attack their own people. And the thing is that's the problem with this agent provocateur stuff. You're causing, it makes you wonder how many times in the past that all these different radical movements, all these different things were either as bad as they say, or did these guys stir the pot and cause a lot of it? Because let's look at the Black Panther Party. It was a COINTELPRO, whatever it was.
COINTELPRO.
You find out COINTELPRO, excuse me, sir. And so you find out that a lot of those pamphlets that were being circulated weren't even paid for by the Black Panthers. They were paid for by the FBI. And so then you realize that the Panther movement wasn't as big as you thought. It's just the fact that they were using that to scare the shit out of middle-class white America. Like, hey, man, these black people are coming for you. You need to be afraid. What you going to do about it? So next time you see a black person, you're going to call the police, or you're going to jump them, or you're going to lynch them, or you're going to do this.
I think you're wrong in saying that the Panther movement wasn't as big as you thought. It was as big as you thought, and probably bigger. But the problem was
mentally.
Problem is that it had assistance from the enemy, because it was one of those situations where the CIA will build up a third world dictator just to fight him later. But this was done on a shorter time scale by the FBI.
Well, the prime example, the first guns that the Black Panthers got from Richard Aoki. Richard Aoki was a FBI agent that was used to infiltrate the Asian guys, Oriental guys, and then they used the same guy later on to infiltrate them. I think they were at Berkeley. So yeah, that's an agent provocateur. That's a prime example. So even when Anoki
No,
died, Bobby Sit.
That's an Asian provocateur.
Yes, it is. When at Anoki's funeral, I think Bobby Seals was there. So later on, the guy interviewed Bobby Seals. Like, how do you feel about Richard Anoki? He's a great guy. I said, no, you don't realize he's an FBI agent. He showed the papers. He got quiet because he did not know. So that is an agent provocateur where they're sitting there and they gave the first guns that the Black Panther Party got. They got from the FBI. So when I said the Panthers weren't as big, no, the Panthers were big mentally. That was a great movement, fantastic movement. But a lot of the papers, a lot of the stuff that was going out, wasn't being printed by them, it was being printed by the FBI. So it worked in our favor. But yes. And so the question that we're asking with the Antifa stuff, those guys, all they want is chaos, is what you're saying. So how do we stop people from infiltrating our movement? How do you stop people from infiltrating and getting? But they've been doing it to us the entire time. Civil rights movement, that was about black people, but it ended up helping everybody but us.
Do you ever seen the movie Dune?
Years ago. That's your movie. You've seen every version.
Listen, there's only one, dipshit. Listen, the thing is,
no.
listen. In the movie Dune, there's this funny thing, unintentionally funny. It's called the weirding ray. And it's basically like this form of psychic energy that's used to like read the mind of people that would be agent provocateurs. Now, I know nothing like this exists, but you can actually like break that down into questions or methods of interrogation, because I think people are too trusting in these scenarios where there's people that want to join the movement or want to help protest. That's fine, but you really need to question the motives of these people. But let's put that on pause for a second, because I want to talk about Ferguson for just a minute. So in Ferguson, when you go back and you look at some of the photos of the protests and you get some of the first-hand accounts from the people that were like on the ground in the action, they said that there were people that were like committing these acts of violence that behaved like they were posing for a photograph. Like they would freeze for a minute, like right before they bust the window. And I'm like, this is strange. That's very strange behavior for somebody that just wants to be roguish and tear some shit up. These people that were committing these acts of violence, they're posing like, hey, look at me, take a picture, put this on the gram. It's the strangest behavior and the most unnatural behavior of anybody who wants to tear some shit up.
Because you would think if they were doing that, they would be anonymous. You would think that they would throw a brick or burn a police car and take off running. And that's another thing we've been hearing about, these derelict police cars just appearing places to be set on fire. Ferguson, I think, is the most recent example of a major protest where we know that they were infiltrated, whether it was a higher power or whether just on a local level with police doing things they shouldn't have been doing. But we know for a fact, or how many of those head Ferguson protesters are like dead? I think it's like 11 of them are no longer around.
So
this is
April 18th, 2015, there was a Baltimore protest for the murder of Freddie Gray. And the same thing happened in Baltimore. There were these staged photo ops of people that were breaking windows and stealing white women's purses, and all these like struggles like in the street and people busting out windows. And there were staged fights with white people in front of these bars. Yeah, in daytime. Yeah, and like these guys that would get into these fights, they would pause like it was some kind of Matrix bullshit. Like they would pause, like, okay, you got this, we got my good side, all right, and punch, and punch, and pause for a second. All right, you got a good shot, all right, and punch. And they said like they did this several times with these strange staccato like movements every time they knew they had a camera on them. And there was a white woman with a redhead white woman in a gray skirt and a black blouse, and she kept doing the same thing over and over. She would go start some shit with a black person and then wait until like, she had a good moment to pause for a good angle, and she would stand in front of a broken window and like scream like, police help. Yeah. Agent provocateurs.
I think one of the things that black folks have always been guilty of is the ability to be manipulated on a large level. And that's one of the things that's being argued like locally with that store owner that shot this kid. You know, some people are like, okay, he shouldn't have been there. They told the store owners not to be there. They told these store owners, hey, we got insurance, we'll cover you. There's no need for anybody to be out there. When I say shopkeep, he actually owned 2 clubs, so that's not relevant. So what happens as a black person in America, we get manipulated and we get sucked into these situations where you got a white guy that has a gun and he wants to shoot a black kid. All he has to do is create the situation, antagonize some people, piss them off, say the right words, and our dumbasses come running. And when that happens, as my people, it's black blood being spilled. So am I saying that, like I said, based on that video that we saw, you see some protesters shove this guy's dad. 78-year-old man gets shoved. 68-year-old man, gets shoved. It was a bad shove too. It wasn't a push. It was a shove. This guy, it was like a tackle.
In Buffalo.
Again, this is in Omaha, Nebraska, in the old market, my friend.
What?
Yes. And so you see that. And see what the police do when they release these videos. They basically have the hearing for you, like, hey, they shoved his dad. Then you see 4 or 5 people wrestling with him. One was a woman. Then this kid jumps on his back. He fires 2 warning shots. And after he fires 2 warning shots, he wrestles with the kid again. Supposedly, they say the kid goes for his gun. He shoots the kid in the neck. Kid bleeds to death. Now, what I'm saying that my people get manipulated is the fact that it's easy for a white man to create a situation where he can get off. If he does the right thing, drives the right way, and pisses people off, we'll come running. Then it'll be 5 or 6 of us. We'll jump the guy. Then eventually the guy pulls a gun out and shoots. This goes back to '84. Bernard Getz in New York. He had been mugged a couple times. He buys a .38. He was riding the subway looking to get mugged again. He wanted to shoot. Now, hold on. Those like 5 or 6 black kids. A couple of them had sharpened screwdrivers. Yeah, they were trying to rob him. They wanted his watch. As soon as they pulled the screw, as soon as he was a mark. He set them up. He buys a gun. He rides the subway at night. White guy with nothing but black people. Eventually, somebody's. Now again, I'm not saying those kids were right, but I'm saying that they took the bait. We take the bait. So, agent provocateurs, we're being infiltrated. We stop being a sucker. Stop falling for everything. Stop it. Use some discernment. Like, hey, you know what? I'll throw a rock or 2, but then I'm gonna get the hell out of there. You ain't got to riot all night. Riot for about an hour and a half and get your ass home, because that's what these other people are doing. And
this is what I'm gonna say. This is what I'm gonna say to this whole situation is that you got to realize these people ain't gonna ride for you. These people ain't gonna ride for the movement. They are not down for the long haul. All right, they got somebody with money that's gonna bail their ass out while your black ass is sitting in there in jail, still rotting, while these motherfuckers are out there blogging about the shit on Instagram and Twitter, planning for the next protest that they're going to.
Okay.
Hold on. These people are professionals. This is what they do. They travel from city to city doing this. And what happens is they belong to a group and they get a stipend. They are funded. Listen, hold up, stop. I did some work recently for the last Hare Krishnas that left New York City. They left New York City because of coronavirus and COVID-19. And I was shocked. I was like, yo, y'all the last.
Y'all still around?
No,
still here?
First of all, no. I was like, y'all the last ones in New York? He was like, yes, we are the last of the Hare Krishnas in New York City. I'm like, whoa. He's like, yeah, now we're gone because, of coronavirus and we can't hand out our pamphlets and we can't interact with people because of all these like social distancing and all this stuff and quarantine and nonsense. But I brought it up to say that they live off of donations. They live off of stipend. They live off of guys the same way that Antifa and the Black Lives Matter founders get money from George Soros when they don't realize, or maybe they do, that they're getting money from a Nazi. Now people may hear this. Now hold up. Now people may hear this and be like, "Oh, well, you talking shit about Black Lives Matter." What I'm telling you to do is be a critical thinker and not have an emotional knee-jerk reaction. Now, when it comes to being conscious, you notice I didn't say woke, I said conscious. When it comes to being conscious, Meet me in the street. Come talk to me if you think I'm phony. Come talk to
Yeah,
me if
yeah.
you think you want to see how conscious I really am. Because we'll have a long ass conversation about consciousness and awareness and what's real about this Black Lives Matter shit and where the money comes from to fund this horse shit.
Okay, my turn. See, the whole thing is whenever you hear these conservatives talk about Black Lives Matter as a terrorist group, how is it a terrorist group? If you hadn't noticed, black folks haven't been organized since the 50s and 60s, maybe the mid 70s. We have never been organized. We're not organized. Even with the Jesse Jackson push, that was donations from all these other companies that he was fleecing. We are not organized and we're not well funded. When we are funded, we're funded from the outside. Antifa is funded from the inside. Even these neo-Nazi groups are funded. The Klan is a terrorist organization. They're funded. How do you consider Black Lives Matter a terrorist group? See, first things first, terrorists have a demand. All they're doing is walking in the street. So until this Antifa, until that element came in, or the outrage over this,
It's
the
because
George
they
Floyd.
it's because they know it's funded by a Nazi. Because the
Oh,
highest cops in the country, the FBI, they know. They're the best at
oh,
research. They know who
I
Soros
got
is.
some. I got something for you about that, but I gotta be careful what I say.
Really?
First things first, when it comes to these police murders of black men, it happens at the same rate for white men. There's just nobody out there telling you the numbers are essentially identical. It's crazy. I will present them to you at a later time. Second, what I'm saying is, how do you consider Black Lives Matter a terrorist organization? Who's telling you guys this? What terrorist act have they done? See, when you say terrorist, when you talk about Antifa, we know for a fact that they're kicking little women in the face who are pro-life. you know, I mean, who are pro-life. Yeah, I'm pro-life. You're a woman. You shouldn't be alive. They'll kick them in the face. That's what Antifa's doing. That's a terrorist organization. Black Lives Matter ain't on that level. When you talk about even the old school Klan, where was the money coming from? And like you were saying, Soros, that should make you wonder. Because the other thing about the black movement was in the 50s, 60s, and into the 70s was funded by the black middle class. That's why it was so important for white America to destroy the black middle class, because they had the disposable income. That's your boots on the street. That's your street level movement that you were talking about earlier, my brother. And those black middle class is what funded these different movements. And so without the black middle class, without the black church being what it is, without all these different things gone, yeah, I ain't got nothing to worry about. White America ain't got shit to worry about with
But
black
here's the
people.
thing though. So what happened is Soros started this thing. He provided the seed money to get it started and still provides the funding for it. But it's now being helped by the black middle class. It's being buffered by the black middle class and like keeping it going. But so what's going on is there's a lot of good things that are coming out of this. There's a lot of change that's coming out of this because when Dr. King died, he 7 days later there were riots in all of the major cities,
Major cities, yes.
and 7 days after that, you had the 1968 Civil Rights Act. So it did take violence. It did take the March on Washington, which is peaceful, but it did take violence as well to work together with that to get progress done. See, I didn't want violence. I didn't want, violence to be, enacted in these peaceful protests because I knew agent provocateurs would get in there and fuck it up. But what wound up happening was people rose to the occasion and exposed these frauds.
Yes, they're filming these jackasses. They're getting
Yes.
these people on tape doing this stuff, and it's
Now,
so important
I
that you
want
don't
to
let them
say a
hijack your
name. I want to
movement.
say a name. Breonna Taylor, Breonna Taylor, Breonna Taylor. She had
Yes.
been dead for a month and she got no justice at all. Nobody was saying anything about her, right?
I no, they were,
No,
but it
but
was like
it wasn't
it was a
enough. It was not
no, no,
enough.
no, 100%. That's the whole situation. It wasn't enough. When you do your research about Breonna Taylor, they serve a warrant. They break her house. They shoot her seven. They shoot 50 rounds, but they shoot her 7 times. She's an EMT, ideal citizen. Now here's the other part that people keep forgetting. The person they were looking for had been caught earlier that day on the other warrant. They went. Not only did they go to the wrong house, the person had already been apprehended. So we say sorry, no foul. What about
Do the same thing.
Philando Castillo?
Oh, stop. The same thing happened in Atlanta about 6 years ago. There was an old lady. She was had to be almost 90,
Yes, I
And
remember that one. Yeah.
they kicked in the door. They thought it was a trap house, and they shot her dead. A defenseless elderly woman. So this this goes on and on. But Breonna Taylor is the newest example of that. Of this.
You're not done yet, Roscoe.
Hold on, hold
Like
on,
I
hold on, hold
said,
on, hold on, hold on. Because Botham Jean was another one.
you,
But
you,
but wait,
like
wait,
I said,
wait. Wait. The thing is though,
keep going.
I want to stay on Breonna Taylor for a second because not only has the case been reopened, the FBI is doing the investigation of the case now. And now more people are saying her name and raising awareness and
Yeah,
consciousness about
yes.
her situation. So, what I'm saying is these protests and some of the violence is doing some good because what the
Oh,
violence is doing is drawing attention to. Do listen right now, there are protests in Italy. Italy, bro. Italy.
Germany,
In
all over
Tokyo.
Europe,
In
Africa.
Tokyo, where there's like
Yes.
very a small African population. There in Japan, in China. Dude, all over the planet right now, people are saying Black Lives Matter. So hey, there is some good coming out of this. A lot of good
Uh,
actually.
well, it's a complicated situation because why did it take this for that to happen? The reason I brought up Philando Castile is when you find out that that cop was acquitted of manslaughter. He didn't even get manslaughter. He should have got murder. You know, when you watch the video from outside to inside, and the idea that police wearing cameras and dash cams would make it harder for police to do bad things. And this guy gets scared and just starts shooting the guy. Now, there's three points you need to make about the Philando Castile. Again, this is in Minnesota, so these cops in Minnesota obviously have a problem. That's where George Floyd was killed. So these cops in Minnesota have a problem, whether they're just scared of black people, whether they're cowards in general, whatever the hell it is. But you have a man with a concealed carry, so that means that he has a full background check. That you couldn't have a concealed carry. You have a man that was known as a Black Mr. Rogers with dreads, and last but not least, he had been stopped by the cops 42 times. Why did that man get stopped 42 times and never got a ticket, never got in trouble? Because he wasn't breaking the law. These cops profiled him because of how he looked. Or they had a problem with him over something he was doing in the community. But that's what the problem is. That cop still got off. A jury of his peers got him off. Because that tells you that a jury of peers.
That's a kangaroo court, dude.
That's a separate conversation, but that's true. But that tells you that I'm not considered a peer. Being a black man does not mean I'm your peer. I'm different. I'm sub. I'm something else. That was not a mistake. That was not an accident. That guy was screaming out contradictory orders. So the reason we're bringing up Philando Castile, the reason we're bringing up Breonna Taylor, the reason we're bringing up even George Floyd is because, one, there's video of two of those. But these people were above reproach because the first thing out of a white person's mouth, well, he shouldn't have been resisting arrest. Watch the George Floyd tapes from the store, the other angles. He never resisted. He sat down. He did everything he was told. In fact, the black cop is the one who set him down the first time. Next thing you know, this other guy shows up, puts his knee on his neck, and we're writing and protesting. The guy was above reproach. See, for a black person, you got to be completely flawless for them to think, because of course they're going to make the excuse that the cop is right. You gotta damn near walk on water and make fucking wine for these people to recognize this. And the other problem, like the Drew Brees situation, the quarterback from the Saints, he's like, hey, I don't get it. All of a sudden, he apologized for saying that, I would never kneel for the national anthem because somebody played that video for him. See, even cops are crying from watching this video. That video is that sickening. And don't watch it with sound, because if you watch it with sound and you hear these people plead with these cops, and then when their ambulance arrives, you don't see a medical worker grab them. You see a sheriff, another cop puts him on the stretcher. You do not see any medical personnel touch this guy.
That's bizarre. That's bizarre. Okay. Listen. Hey, put your helmet on. We got a roll cage in this motherfucking vehicle because I'm about to take this dune buggy right off the cliff. So, there's photographs circulating around of George Floyd with his shirt off, and he has a Masonic tattoo of order out of chaos. It's a two-headed bird on his chest. Did you know that?
Yeah. No, I didn't know that. So chances are that might be why.
Hold on, man. We're barely going down this cliff, so just hang on, because this fucking roll cage is going it's going to take a lot of hits. So now the guy, his main benefactor, the basketball player, Stacks, right?
No, Jackson.
Jackson. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can't think of. I'm sorry, Jackson. I can't think of his first name. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So the thing is, though, man, is that his father, Masons. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So George Floyd either is a wannabe or he's a lower degree Mason.
The worst case scenario, he might have been a sacrifice.
Listen, listen. We're still going down this hill.
Mm-hmm.
Now, George Floyd worked for a woman, a Latina woman, and her name is last name is Santa Maria, and she has a business that receives donations from George Soros. Now, this is where it gets really weird because that the reason that he was stopped, George Floyd was stopped and harassed, is because he was accused of passing counterfeit bills at a
Yeah,
restaurant.
20. Yeah. Yes.
Okay. There's also accusations that this restaurant was used to wash counterfeit money for a government agency or a government contractor. And George Floyd may have got caught in this and may be the blood sacrifice for somebody else.
Look, it's real simple. If this sounds so bad, I'm not trying to do all conspiracy on you, but since
Y'all,
you
we're
want
too
to
late. We're there. We're already
yeah.
there, motherfucker. I told
Look,
you. Hey, yo, put your helmet on, nigga. We going over the cliff.
You have to. No, you have to look at the funeral service. If he's carried at waist high, no. But if he's carried on the shoulders, he's a sacrifice. Remember, that's how they did Luther. That's how they did Whitney. Whenever you saw these people who were carried a certain way, that means that they're a sacrifice. I might have it backwards. I don't do my research, but based on how that casket is carried, that represents it being a sacrifice.
It's waist high. Waist high is a sacrifice.
The waist high is a sacrifice. Okay, I had it back. I'm sorry.
So how was he carried?
So what?
How was he carried?
I didn't watch. I gotta go now that you say that. I gotta go back and watch now. The other problem goes back to like the Trayvon situation. Now you still hear his mama talk, but you never hear the dad talk. The dad, when you see those Masonic pictures of that dad, you see him. He's way up there, 32, 33rd, whatever he is. You see all kinds of fezzes and all kinds of stuff on the dad now. Remember Trayvon's dad he cried the first couple of days, but after that, remember they sued the apartment complex. They sued all kinds of people. Like I said, mom still talks, dad won't speak a word. So, but you do realize he ascended quickly because of that.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, he probably sacrificed his son. Maybe he did. I mean, he did. He seemed like just nonplussed, like really not bothered about the entire thing. Like he just rolled over and just like was a quiet little pussycat.
No, he like I said, he wasn't initially. He was. He was upset, crying. But then 2 months into it, a couple photo ops, he ain't said nothing. Believe me, I'd be like Valletta Wallace. Remember Biggie's mom?
Yep.
She was still popping up because she was harassing the LAPD. She literally pissed off all the detectives retired. Yeah, they retired. They said, man, this Wallace chick, she ain't gonna stop calling us. They was retiring because of her. So that's how I would be if it was my son, my daughter. If I didn't kill you, I would make you wish you were dead. I'd drive you batshit crazy. Oh wow, come on, man, Roscoe, you gotta go. Look, back to the original subject. I think when people we got to tie this together so people understand what we're saying. What we're saying is sometimes there's a bigger picture, and the masses get manipulated on multiple levels. Especially my people of color, are easily sucked in and manipulated by bigger forces, and they're so happy to get money. And that was always our issue with the Democratic Party. They give money to black folks for their votes, but don't give us any freedom, or don't really care about what happens to us. And whether it's the cops who just want to bust you in the head, or whether it's the cops who are white supremacists, whether it's the cops who are sending it off because they want to use their military weapons. Because you got to remember, they got militarized under Barack. They got all kinds of weapons and big. They just want to use that on people.
Actually,
So
no, no,
if
no, they
it,
didn't. They did not. It was not Brock. It was Bush. It was what it was, man. It was all the stuff that was being used or wasn't used from the Iraq War. It started under
yeah,
Bush, but
yeah, yes, it started under Bush, but the funding got there, and no matter what, you have. It's one thing when you have LAPD with a big ass like ramming tool because they're doing drug busts, but then you got these small towns like Ferguson that have these big military weapons. Why do they need that? So the idea is that they have to justify the use of that or to justify having that, so they couldn't wait to use it. Or we talk about Antifa, who just wants to piggyback our movement and cause chaos, and they get bailed out the very next day. The point being is that all these people are benefiting from our movement, and they're pushing it further and further, and we're still the ones shedding blood. Now, you are seeing more and more white folks get arrested and things happen. Yeah, you got a lot of white folks getting knocked out too. Getting bust up because of the shit. But the fact is this: you got to be discerning. We need to be filming these people. When you see somebody who don't fit in, when you see somebody in a business suit snorting cocaine, throwing rocks, you need to be taking a picture of that. Or when you see somebody set a pallet of rocks, where'd that truck go? That kind of stuff. We need to be checking our movement. You see these guys in Brooklyn and New York stop them from busting up the Target. They're like, no, that's not what we're about. That's not what we're about. Well, I hate to break it to you. I'm about both of it. I don't. If you want to steal some shit, fine, because you got white folks stealing whole societies. So yeah, I can't stand how they sit here and talk about it's not a good thing to burn up shit. Well, you guys were burning churches. You guys were burning up cars. You guys burn up a car. If your team wins the Super Bowl, y'all destroy the whole city. So no, stop giving me this
no.
idea that
But here's something to think about though. So there were business owners that were arrested for opening
yes,
their businesses too early during quarantine. There
yeah,
were hair salon owners and nail salon owners that were fined a bunch of money and arrested in certain states for opening too early. But yet now, weeks later, it's okay to stand down, the police for to stand down, and those businesses can be looted. What? That's totally backwards. So you're
no,
gonna
hold it.
wait. Now stop. I'm not finished. So you wanna arrest a business owner for opening up during quarantine, but it's okay for police to stand down when their business is being looted. That's complete a contradiction of what is supposed to be lawful and what your rights are. But see, I brought that up to make a point is that you have to question the intent of the people in power. And then when it comes time to rise up, you have to question the motives of the people around you, black people included. Because, listen, Boule is involved in this too, you better believe it. So the thing is that question the people that are around you when you are in the heat of combat because every brother ain't a brother and everybody ain't for you. And just because this is some movement and people want to put Black Lives Matter all over it, that's cool. But like I just said, every brother ain't a brother. And
just because they
everybody
got your jersey on, don't mean that they're on your team.
and
Just
and
because
everybody does not have the same end game in mind as we do.
look, Roscoe, you were just saying about the opening up and shutting down and the COVID and this. They caught a lot of these store owners who were looting their own stuff on purpose for the insurance money. A lot of these people almost went out of business because of COVID.
Yes.
So this riot gave them an opportunity to
That's
file
an
insurance
excellent point.
claims.
That is an excellent
Yeah,
point
and
because
so you
there are people setting fire to their own businesses to collect insurance money.
yeah. So don't think for one second it don't take much for somebody to start a riot or somebody just run there and hey nigger and then y'all run bust the store up and like oh my god my store I worked so hard for it.
Or maybe,
Cut me
or
a check.
maybe, or maybe you just paid some people to do it. Maybe you
Yeah,
paid some black people. Maybe you paid some Antifa motherfuckers to do it. But it
yeah.
happened, and it is happening. So,
So
so
yes,
people,
yes.
people, people, listen. Again, when you see some of these businesses burning, just realize that it is not the person. That person may not be a victim. It may be the person that runs the business that's burning it up. So keep that in mind too. Like, listen, people are having knee-jerk reactions and emotional reactions to everything they're seeing right now,
Everything. Period.
and
It's all about emotion.
nobody is being calm and looking beneath the surface and seeing what's really going on. That's why we're having this discussion now about the Freddie Gray protest, and how there were stage parts of that protest, and how in Ferguson there were stage parts of that protest, and in Atlanta, in Los Angeles, in New York, in Philadelphia. Philadelphia has been going through hell. In DC, there have been staged parts of the protest and agent provocateurs. And these people and the powerful people behind them that want to bring about chaos, these people pray to different gods than you and I. And I'm not talking about Allah. I'm not talking about the
Yeshua,
or none of that. No. I'm talking about the dark arts. That's what I'm talking about. These people, these people who worship and use chaos magic are evil ass people. Okay.
Look, even when you deal with this white supremacy stuff, you have a contingency out there. Whether they're complete, whether they're Masons, whether they're Satanists, whether they're Luciferians, or whether they're just good old fashioned white boys, they believe that black people aren't ready for a race war. That's why they want to set it off so bad. They don't believe my people are armed. They don't believe my people would survive. What they believe is that they're armed and ready, and they've been prepared for some kind of conflict for years. So they think if this gets set off, that they will be the ones that are victorious. And I'm here to tell you, be careful what you ask for. Be careful what you ask for. And what my brother's telling you about these agent provocateurs, don't let your movement get infiltrated. Now, I know it's one thing that we can't control all the time, but there's some people that are obviously don't have the same intent as you walking next to you. Man, you work with people at your job right now. You got people at your job that ain't there for the same reason you are. They don't care about being successful. They just want to grab some ass and get some pussy and maybe suck a dick or two. They have different motivation, but they're in the same place as you. You got to recognize that existence or that element in this movement, and either back away or don't accept everybody's money. Like, nah, you know what, bro? We'll handle this on our own.
So yesterday they had a large protest in D.C., the largest one so far, and right before the protest, there were all these cops who took off their uniforms, and they were in plain clothes. Now, what a lot of people saw were a lot of fat, out of shape, bearded guys. And who they were, which you got to understand, that those were prison guards. There is a union of prison guards that were brought into Washington D.C. to work as riot cops because they work in prisons and they work for they work doing prison riots. So
they have some training.
Yeah. So they were federalized and brought in, and they were all white. Mostly not people of color. I didn't see any Latin or black people in that group at all. So that's very important to understand the landscape of the battlefield, to quote Sun Tzu, because you got to use the landscape of the battlefield to your advantage. So they're bringing in outsiders. Yo, real quick, I want to say Trump almost had a coup d'etat civil war on his hands a couple days ago when he attempted to bring in the military, not the National Guard. I'm talking about the United States military to fight against protesters, Americans. Right away, he had people in his own cabinet disagreeing with him. The Joint Chiefs of Staff, Milley, said, hell no, we're not going to do that. They said people who were in the room said these guys were at full pitch yelling at each other. Milley, the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and the president were yelling at each other. And he said, Milley was like, fuck that. We are not going to use American soldiers to fight Americans. You are out of your hold on. He said, you are out of your fucking mind. He said these guys are talking like dudes on the street. He said, and also, the Secretary of the State, Esper, disagreed. A Republican strongly disagreed that no, we are not going to bring the military in to fight Americans.
Look, on a local level, and I know our time is getting short. On a local level, we had they called it the National Guard. Like I said, I live in Omaha. We don't have enough cops for all the people we got, so they called it the National Guard, and they had the protesters there. And all of a sudden, they all took a knee in front of the protesters. The National Guard did, because what people don't get, this National Guard, when you hear them say weekend warriors and stuff like that, they're making fun of them, but you got to pay attention. These literally are the same people that are working with the riot. These people work with you. they get called in for an emergency. You know, they was at the forklift just 25 minutes ago. Now they're out here. Those people took the knee first. They're like, look, we agree with you. This is what this is all about. You know, this goes back to the whole Colin Kaepernick, who was also funded by Soros, but that's another conversation. This is the idea that Trump doesn't understand who's in charge, and we the people need to recognize that we are in charge. Like, yeah, our government got hijacked by big business, but we can take it back. The only problem is we don't want Antifa to take nothing back. We need to get rid of these pansies, these socialists, these commies that are trying to infiltrate our government. And Americans need to be smart and go back to some of the old ways. Like I said, I get that, you know, this kumbaya, this all hold hands shit. But the fact is that we need to do for ourselves. And that's what this is about. And as Black folks, this is our movement. We need to do it our way, ourselves, and don't let somebody else define it for us. And don't, like I said, when they took a knee, because it was all over the TV, they're like, they took the knee first. The protesters freaked out because they thought they didn't know what was happening. They took the knee because anybody who watches this video, you had the most hardcore cop supporters, the cops, and all of a sudden you had cops crying when they saw this video. That's how powerful this video is. Now, is it staged? Is it a sacrifice? Is it all these other things?
Parts of it is, but the thing, this is what I'm saying. And we're going to close on this, is that, listen, there are genuine people out there that want to help and be a part of this. And I appreciate and I respect that. And accept those people's help, but to a limit. Because we have to do a lot of this on our own. Because when all this protesting and like, you know, grandstanding is all over, you got to go back to your neighborhood. You got to go back to where you live. And your white friends ain't going to be there. It's going to be you. It's going to be you at that stoplight. It's going to be you getting pulled over by yourself. And listen, it's going to continue. All right? Violence by police on Black people will continue. Now, we are seeing progress, and that's a great thing. And you know, it's going to make a lot of changes, but there's still going to be violence, and you got to watch your ass out there. You know, you grew up Black, so you already know how to conduct yourself. But the thing is that you got to keep pushing the ball forward. You got to keep pushing through the mud. You got to keep sending letters, emails to your congresspeople.
Yes.
You got to
run for office.
You got to
attack government.
And you know what? A lot of stuff is done locally. So you got to talk to the people in city council. You got to talk to your state senator. You got to talk to the House, the members of the House. You got to talk to people in government, and you got to stay in their face. Listen. The thing is if you don't get involved in government, government will get involved with you.
Look, you just made so many good points. So I don't know how to wrap it up without saying a lot of stuff. So
say a lot of stuff.
I think that we were loaded to a far sense of security in the 80s because we had made all these advancements in civil rights. But the fact of the matter
but then fucking Ronald Reagan was like, "Fuck y'all niggas. Y'all niggas is on your own."
Complicated, but what I was going to say is that we thought that since we had achieved it, we had to stop fighting. What you understand is once you achieve something, you can take a break, but you got to keep fighting, and not stop fighting, because that you got loaded to a false sense of security. That's the same thing with these people who are coming into our movement. You think because they're marching next to you that they're marching for the same reason. That's a false sense of security. And the bottom line is when we talk about voting, we got to look at these judges too. We got to look at these sheriffs. We got to look at a lot of other stuff because you can talk all the shit you want, but in D.C. and Maryland and where all this Freddie Gray stuff, like you have a Democrat or mayor. So a lot of these dirty cops are in Democratic cities. You just have the mayor change the street name of where the president lives at. So now it's Black Lives Matter Avenue or whatever. That's cool. That's cute. That's cute. But like you said, Freddie Gray and all that stuff is in her city also. So you got to pay attention to where these dirty cops are at. And when they do something wrong, they need to be fired. You need a citizen oversight board. Remember, we had a situation back in the day where we had a problem with two cops who were in college at the time. And we contacted the lady that was on the oversight board, and she contacted me back. So these cops shouldn't have jobs. And the other thing is that they need to have a database. When these cops fuck up at one precinct or one department, they should not be allowed to work at another. They need a nationwide database that when you got a couple strikes here, you can't be a cop here because that's what these cops are doing. They'll go to some small town or like these police captains when they retire. They get their salary for life. So that's what you see these big police captains from these big cities go to these small towns and they'll work a little bit because I still got my $140,000 salary from where I was at before. So yeah, you're rewarding mediocre behavior, or at least, or you're rewarding criminals at the very least. So that's the kind of stuff that you need to be aware of when it comes to that. You got to participate in government. Stop watching reality shows and start living your reality. I'm out. I'm sorry.
Well, as I said, be careful of the people around you offering help. Accept their help, but know their intentions. But realize that most of the work is on you, and you got to pull your weight. And that means around your house, around your city, around your state. Peace.
Oh.